Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Prime Minister believes Trinidad and Tobago can still be seen as a model nation despite challenges faced. Prayers, love and support from the people of Trinidad and Tobago to the family of the former South African president. And diplomatic relations between Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica still strong. Thank you for joining us. Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissessar hopes former South African President Nelson Mandela rests in peace, knowing that he leaves behind many who will continue his fight. The Honourable Prime Minister released a statement after she learnt of his passing, stating that the prayers, love and support of the people of Trinidad and Tobago are with his family and those close to him.
Prime Minister, the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, says the world has lost a freedom fighter and statesman with the death of South Africa's first black president, Nelson Mandela. As the news of Mandela's passing spread across the globe on Thursday, there was an outpouring of love and deep reflection on the legacy left behind by the freedom fighter. According to Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar, the world has lost democracy's most loyal friend and advocate, who she says inspired us to believe that no obstacle is too large, no walk is too long, and no enemy of freedom is so powerful that we should ever consider giving in. Mandela, who passed at the age of 95, was the 20th century's icon of freedom and liberty. He had been hospitalized since June 8th for a lung infection. The Honourable Prime Minister says his life will surely become one of the most epic stories in world history of the true depth and strength of the human spirit. She said Mandela will forever be remembered as a man who fought for freedom and won it for millions around the world without once compromising his beliefs or his principles. She went on to state that the legacy he has left us is one we shall always celebrate, and we shall always thank God for Nelson Mandela. Meanwhile, His Excellency Gavin Nicholas and the staff of the Trinidad and Tobago High Commission joined the world in celebrating the life of Mandela. A release from the High Commission in London noted that he embodied the beauty of the human spirit. The release went on to identify him as an unparalleled force who gave all of himself to the fight for freedom and equality and inspired hope in the darkest of places. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister believes Trinidad and Tobago can still be seen as a model nation despite the challenges which we may face. She makes this assertion as she hosts a Christmas luncheon for religious heads, members of the Diplomatic Corps and heads of government departments at the Diplomatic Centre, St. Anne's.
Hindu, Islam and Christian leaders gather together to eat and make merry. It is the little things such as this which Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar says make Trinidad and Tobago the unique, beautiful country it is. Addressing the leaders and representatives of the various religious institutions, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar says how blessed we are as a people and a nation cannot be stressed enough.
I believe some would say that we are a model nation where peace prevails as a crown jewel of a very rich diversity of religious, cultural traditions and ethnicities. This is how the world sees us, and it is worth taking the time to recognize those views, because we here at home sometimes forget how blessed we are as a nation and as a people.
The Prime Minister adds, despite some of the challenges we may face, the nation has overcome these to now hold our heads high and set an example for many nations across the world.
In the past day, I believe, we faced some of our greatest tests. We had 4 grueling elections. Win, lose or draw, we held them in time. Being held within a space of just 10 months. Each of them was peaceful. Each was fair. And each was a proud demonstration of a very robust democracy at work. I think we should take a bow for that, all of us. And there are countries where they wouldn't even hold one election in 10 years. For at all, and yet we were able as a people to hold peaceful elections on 4 occasions within 10 months. And I would say few other countries in the world can speak proudly of such an achievement. And the achievement defined is that we are exemplars to the world in how we disagree, aggressively at times, yet hold firmly to lines that we must not cross, to acts that we must not allow, and to mistakes we must never deliberately make.
Prime Minister Persad Bessessa encourages all religious leaders to stand together with the government and members of the diplomatic corps to defend the integrity of our nation and its international image.
We can mount a very strong commitment in partnership to preserving the good of our nation and standing against those things that threaten our children and all the people of our land. And I believe if we make that commitment today as we celebrate the birth of the Christ child, if we can make that commitment, that would be a tremendous step forward in preserving everything we hold dear, everything that has gained us admiration from the world. To our religious leaders who are here, and to the ones we go to seek solace, the churches, the mosques, and the temples all play a very important role in how we live as a people, how we work as a people, and how we relate to each other as a people.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. Strong diplomatic relations between Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica are being restored. Recently, this country's Minister of Foreign Affairs visited Jamaica to engage in talks aimed at resolving any issues that may have existed.
Talks between the governments of Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica have proven positive in preserving the diplomatic relationship between both countries. On Wednesday, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Winston Ducaran, hosted a media conference at his ministry in Port of Spain. The Honorable Minister explained that he emerged from 2 days of talks in Jamaica, which were aimed at addressing concerns surrounding the turning away of 13 Jamaican nationals at Piarco International Airport on November 19. At the meeting, both parties acknowledged the implications of the Caribbean Court of Justice ruling on the Shanique Marie case, which entitles CARICOM nationals to a 6-month entry stamp, according to Caribbean community law. The Honourable Minister spoke of the relationship he believes currently exists between both countries.
I think we have a lot to be placed on the agenda in the CARICOM context, but I believe the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago has been restored, and this particular incident, in my view, was not allowed to escalate into other aspects.
Members of the Jamaican Manufacturers Association, Jamaica Exporters Association, the Jamaican Chamber of Commerce, and the Private Sector Association of Jamaica all had an opportunity to receive the visiting delegation from Trinidad and Tobago to discuss other issues, including the trade imbalance. They agreed on the desirability of a constructive dialogue underpinned by facts and to work together to find solutions to the issues affecting bilateral trade. Regarding the immigration issue, the Honourable Minister said the Immigration Authority must now exercise its duty in the context of the community law.
Well, the community law that now demands that there are very specific discretionary powers that can be exercised will now be introduced into our system by some sensitization workshops that will follow the meeting of the Attorney Generals that took place some time ago. So immigration officers would now become familiar with the discretionary powers. We were very careful to indicate that the immigration officer judgment will remain, but that judgment will be exercised in the context of some new discretionary powers.
He added that there will also be an appeal process to complement this, which will be put in place immediately.
There must be a clear definition of how decisions, if they are unfavorable to our nationals, can be appealed, how complaints can be lodged and treated, and how, in that process, there will be a new accountability on the issue of immigration.
Minister Ducaran said there will be a need to alter the laws of Trinidad and Tobago to be in line with the community law, which will take place over a period of time. During the meeting in Jamaica, it was agreed that the meeting of the Legal Affairs Committee of CARICOM and the upcoming CARICOM 14th meeting of officials on free movement of skills and facilitation of travel to be held in Guyana on December 11th and 12th would prove helpful in the wider resolution of the issue at hand. Minister Dukaran extended an invitation to Jamaica's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator the Honorable Arnold Nicholson, to hold a second round of consultations in Port of Spain in the first quarter of 2014 to take stock and follow up on the agreements and understandings reached in Kingston. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
In other news, several managers and top-ranking public service officials got a chance to sit in the seat many clerical workers are positioned in daily as their job. The exercise was part of getting a better understanding of the public service hierarchy as the move to renew and modernize the Trinidad and Tobago public service takes place in the Gold to Diamond project being undertaken by the Public Administration Ministry.
It could be an episode from the hit reality show Undercover Boss. Rather, it's testimonies of managers and permanent secretaries from state agencies and ministries sharing their experiences in holding the post of clerical workers within their own organizations for a few hours. The challenge offered to these men and women who hold some of the most senior positions within the public service was presented as part of the information sharing session hosted by the Public Administration Ministry. The aim of the session sought to bring a better understanding of the transformation taking place in the public sector through its Gold to Diamond Standard project. It's hoped that by doing this, a reform of the public sector will commence, removing the bureaucracy and making the services offered by these agencies more efficient. But more so, the exercise served as one where senior practitioners in the public service got a reminder of what it is like to interact with the public and engage in understanding how it feels to be the face of the agency offering services to citizens. To Permanent Secretary in the Housing Ministry, Sarah Briggs, the switch from her office to the front desk served as an eye-opener to the work conditions public servants deal with on a daily basis.
I said, let me try. So I went on the system and my first response was, this desk is very uncomfortable. Because I had to sit very far from the computer and I had to be bending like this. I tried to pull the mouse and the keyboard closer, it could not move. She said, that's how it has to be. So the keyboard is out there, the monitor is out there, and I'm here trying to see what is on the system. And I'm saying, but how do you function with this system? She said, Ms. Briggs, good, we get along with it very well, there's no complaint. But I feel that something could be done to fix the physical setting, the desk. At least if there's a computer, you should have a computer desk, and not a plain desk where you have a normal desk, working desk. I think that was inappropriate, and I think we would want to change that.
And all the change around serves as an opportunity in learning how to make government services easier and more friendly. General Manager at TNTEC Kelvin Ramsuk described his short time at various branches as a learning process and urged those in authority to take the opportunity seriously.
From what I've seen, from the exposure, while I feel I'll have to go back more often, and not there alone, but other locations, and anywhere that we could have that interaction with our customers. And not just go, and it's important, and just look on, but actually take up the role. Take up the role of the various officers that actually carry out the function, right? So you get the feeling. So if at all the Diamond Standard certification has done something for TNTEC, it certainly has.
Public Administration Minister Carolyn Sipasad Bechan says during her short time doing the job her PS would normally do, made her realize how simple procedures are turned into lengthy processes and a dire need to move with modern times.
All PSs who are here, do you realize that's what goes on downstairs? With your staff. And my 2 hours, I may not have even dealt successfully with that one transaction. Because after that, I now had to go back to the airlines and get them to validate and then go back and change. So I must have wrote about 4 purchase orders yesterday, cancel one after the other, and the final one, because it changed. And it therefore tells us that we are not keeping up with the technology.
While the exercise served as a learning tool for those in management positions, the process represents the progress made so far in establishing the Gold to Diamond project, as well as a forward timeline and goals to be achieved in the transformation of the sector. This journey represents a 10-year vision which began in 2012 with the National Public Service's 50th Golden Anniversary, which culminates in 2022, the 60th Diamond Anniversary.
How do we know when we have reached that stage? Until we do the right thing when nobody is looking. All right? So we are aiming for that. It's not only because we are there for the diamond standard, we are going to do the right thing.
Kimberam Calawan, News 4.
Sport is up right after the break. The battle for the Secondary School Football League Intercol title was contested on Tuesday at the Hazley Crawford Stadium in Port of Spain. The North Zone champions Fatima College met their eastern counterparts St. Augustine Secondary in front of a packed covered stands, who got their money's worth. Wayne Cunningham has the highlights.
St. Augustine Secondary was looking to add the boys' Intercol title to the one secured by their girls as they met Fatima College in the final on Tuesday before a boisterous crowd, which included Fatima alum Anil Roberts, Minister of Sport. The supporters would not get a chance to settle into their seats as the scoring was open almost as the first whistle sounded. St. Augustine, with a well-worked move, goes ahead in the second minute. Jordan Devnish with a well-taken one-time finish to make it 1-0 to the Green Machine. The response was immediate from Fatima. Dominic Jangu with a neat pass after the weaving run, and Marquise Hoyt finishes well to tie up the scores. Hoyt in acres of space and makes full use of it. The boys from Mukapo Road were now into the game and looking to grab the advantage. Dylan Abram hitting straight at the keeper. But it would be the Fatima crew who would be temporarily hushed when St. Augustine retakes the lead. The deflection of the Shannon Gomez shot wrong-footing the goalkeeper, Akil Guerra, to make it 2-1 in the 32nd minute. And that's how it stayed at the half. St. Augustine were not content with that score and went in search of more as the second period began. Ike Andrews doing all but finishing this play. Their persistence would pay off in the 60th minute when the throw from Tristan John finds Akeem Garcia, and he shows some good skill before finishing well. The national youth player working in tight spaces to make it 3-1. The icing on the cake came in added on time. Referee Cecile Hines having a word with the players after an incident. But Ricardo John paid more attention to the drop ball and was off to score goal number 4 for St. Augustine. John eliminates 3 defenders before hitting past the keeper. 4-1, Green Machine. St. Augustine Secondary ending a 29-year drought to take the 2013 Intercol title. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
More news after the break. December 5th marked International Volunteer Day, and the United Nations took the opportunity to highlight the many efforts of those who took time from their busy schedule to lend a helping hand and volunteer in their communities and groups. In recognition of this day and to put the spotlight on the many activities, the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development held its International Volunteer Day Fair at the Brian Lara Promenade.
International Volunteer Day takes place each year on December 5th. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development hosted its annual fair to commemorate the International Day. It's a chance for both volunteers and individuals to promote their contributions to development, as well as raise awareness for volunteering and encourage others to get involved. Minister in the Ministry of Gender, Youth Affairs and Child Development, Razia Ahmed, speaking at the fair, says through initiatives like this, where persons are encouraged to take a more proactive role in society, Trinidad and Tobago's future generation will have a chance at living in a better place.
The spirit of volunteerism amongst its citizens, and it is the hope that everyone will take the opportunity to give up their time, their energy, and their resourcefulness to make this place a better home for all of us with mindfulness, hope, and compassion. The National Volunteerism Program targets primary school students, secondary school students, technical and vocational students, university students, youth groups, youth councils, and individual youth interested in joining the program. Young persons can volunteer in any area that matches their skill or interest, giving them a chance to discover and develop their innate talents.
While many persons participate in NGOs and community events, the act of volunteerism is highly commended, and it serves to develop character and a sense of compassion, care for fellow mankind. United Nations Resident Coordinator Richard Blewett praised the government for encouraging this type of behavior among its citizens.
I'm also mindful of a lot of people who volunteer. They volunteer to care for their grandmother. They are caring without people knowing about the caring that they do. So, sometimes volunteerism is not very visible, but it's incredibly important. I'm also mindful in Trinidad and Tobago, you've got many faith-based organizations that do incredible, again, not very talked about work in terms of building community cohesion and volunteerism. I'm also, mindful that the government itself also needs and does provide an enabling environment for volunteerism. And the more the government can do that, the better the country will be.
Minister Ahmed encouraged citizens to become more active in their society through the kind act of volunteering.
Let us remind ourselves that volunteerism contributes to national peace, global peace, and sustainable human development. As a nation, we join with the international community in recognizing every volunteer's commitment and applaud each person who has ever volunteered to make this world a better place.
The fair served to highlight many of the activities offered by various ministries and state agencies that persons can get involved in and lend assistance. Established in the United Nations in 1985, the day is a celebration of volunteering on a global scale. This year's focus is to highlight the contribution of youth volunteers working towards global peace and sustainable development. It is the recognition that young people can act as agents of change within communities. Kimberly Ram-Calawan, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of One News 4 Report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.